Professor Nam Yong Lee's long-form commentary, Reframing the Global Competitiveness of University Professors in the Age of AI Universities, must now change their very structure. In an era where artificial intelligence is ubiquitous, continuing to treat the student-faculty ratio as the primary indicator of educational quality is fundamentally out of step with global standards. Leading countries already evaluate their higher education systems not by simple head counts of teaching staff, but by graduation rates, learning outcomes, employment rates, participation in lifelong learning, and research and innovation capacity. Institutions that compile global university rankings are also shifting their focus. Times Higher Education evaluates universities along 5 pillars: teaching, research environment, research quality, international outlook, and industry engagement. Within this framework, the student-staff ratio appears only as one of several sub-indicators in the teaching category. US News Best Global Universities likewise compares institutions primarily on research output and global and regional research reputation. The sheer number of professors is not treated as an independent metric. In the global standard, the core question of competitiveness is no longer how many professors does a university employ, but how are professors, students, research, industry, and the wider world connected? From the perspective of world best practices, redundant lecturing is a massive structural waste. In foundational subjects such as microeconomics, linear algebra, data structures, introductory accounting, and engineering mathematics, 70 to 80% of the content is almost identical across countries and institutions, yet tens of thousands of universities around the world still write their own lecture notes, design their own slides, and separately construct their own examinations. Tens of thousands of professors reproduce essentially the same material year after year. From the standpoint of humanity as a whole, this is an obvious duplication of effort and a serious waste of resources. Major online education platforms are already attempting a world best practice model by designing a single global course in a given subject and delivering it simultaneously to hundreds of thousands, even millions of learners. However, the high dropout rates observed in these platforms cannot be explained by content quality alone. When lectures are not meaningfully connected to the learner's context, major, or regional industrial structure, even the most sophisticated course remains detached, an abstract body of knowledge isolated from the learner's real life. Seen through the lens of relational philosophy, the core problem becomes clear. We fail to bring shareable knowledge assets together on common platforms and design the network of relationships around them. Instead, we treat professors and classrooms as isolated objects, and this structural choice creates inefficiency. World best practices should not mean one university that produces the best version of the same content, but a global network that co-designs and co-shares common content. The new status of the professor, not how many, but what they connect. Relational philosophy focuses less on what exists and more on how it is connected. The key question regarding professors, therefore, is not how many professors should we have, but to what and in what way should we connect our professors? For a long time, many universities have used professors primarily as people who explain textbooks, consuming their time with repetitive tasks such as writing lecture notes, making slides, and preparing and grading exams and assignments. This reality is changing. Generative AI and learning analytics have reached a point where they can take over a substantial portion of basic concept explanations, repetitive practice, and automated feedback. AI can analyze students' learning patterns, identify weak concepts, and automatically present appropriate problems and tailored explanations. In such an environment, the status of the professor must be elevated from a loudspeaker that recites knowledge to a relational architect who connects knowledge with reality. Even when the same economic theory is taught, the quality of the lecture varies dramatically depending on how it is connected to global supply chain restructuring, changes in domestic industrial structure, and the future employment prospects of our young people. A scholar who has dedicated an entire career to the university should exercise their full value precisely in this work of connection, interpretation, and contextualization. Mechanical lecturing to avatars and AI, professors as high-value designers, mechanical lecturing in basic and common courses is no longer work that each university must produce on its own. World best practice lectures designed jointly by leading universities and international academic societies can be placed on global platforms, translated and summarized into multiple languages by AI, and delivered with precision by avatar instructors. Students can repeatedly study the world's highest quality lectures, free from time and place constraints. When AI tutors are added to this system, highly individualized support based on learning data becomes possible. AI can analyze each student's pace and level of understanding. For some students, it can slow down and reinforce fundamental concepts. For others, it can offer more advanced and challenging problems. Up to this point, the work is best handled by capital, namely artificial intelligence and digital infrastructure. University professors, in turn, should concentrate on high-value design layered on top of this foundation: national strategy, local realities, cutting-edge research, ethics and public responsibility, and critical thinking. Just as automation and robotics in industry have replaced repetitive labor and moved human workers into roles in planning, design, integration, and leadership, education must also transfer mechanical lecturing to avatars and AI, allowing professors to move to the frontier of relationships. This is the natural direction of evolution. What international statistics reveal about the limits of the student-faculty ratio? Global indicators already show that the student-faculty ratio has declined from a flagship metric to a supplementary metric. In higher education, the student-staff ratio in many countries falls roughly between 10:1 and 20:1, yet differences within this range do not translate 1:1 into learning outcomes, post-graduation income, or employment rates. Some countries, despite having slightly higher student-faculty ratios, maintain strong learning outcomes thanks to robust tutoring systems and digital learning support. Conversely, there are numerous cases where universities have reduced student-faculty ratios but failed to improve educational quality. Even when the number of faculty increases, if research conditions, educational infrastructure, and a redefinition of faculty roles do not follow, the quantity rises while quality remains stagnant. These international statistics point to a simple truth: what matters is not how many professors we employ, but how professors and resources are organized and utilized. Global ranking agencies have moved in the same direction. One agency counts the student-staff ratio only as a single item among many sub-indicators within the teaching category, and considers it alongside teaching reputation, doctoral to bachelor ratios, PhD output, and financial resources. Another agency excludes the student-faculty ratio altogether, focusing instead on research reputation, publication counts, citations, and the share of international co-authorship as core measures of research and innovation. Once AI tutors, learning analytics, and avatar lectures are deployed, a single professor can provide more precise support to a larger number of students. In such a context, relying on a simple ratio risks misrepresenting reality. When capital replaces labor, professors must be elevated into research-centered roles. The fact that artificial intelligence, as a form of capital, can take over repetitive academic tasks does not mean universities should make cutting faculty costs their primary strategy. Such thinking belongs to the 20th century. Under contemporary global standards, the key question is not how much did you cut, but into which high-value domains did you redeploy the people who remain? Universities are no exception. If AI and avatars handle basic lectures, grading, and routine administrative tasks, the weekly time structure of professors changes fundamentally. Time once spent on preparing lectures and grading can be reallocated to international joint research, graduate seminars, industry-university collaboration, support for entrepreneurial ecosystems, one-on-one or small group mentoring, and the design of integrated curricula and micro-degrees. This relocation becomes a lever that raises not only individual research capacity, but also the innovation capacity of the entire institution. In higher education, the proportion of PhD holders and researchers is widely regarded as a core indicator directly linked to national competitiveness. Universities that elevate faculty roles from mechanical tasks to creative, research-centered work will emerge as the central pillars both in global rankings and in national innovation systems. Over time, the number of instructors devoted solely to basic and common courses may naturally decline, but research-active faculty must be reconfigured as talent, standing on the front line of knowledge production and innovation. This is the mature response universities should adopt when capital begins to replace labor. The strategic impact of redefining faculty roles in global ranking systems. A closer look at the world's major university ranking frameworks reveals that redefining faculty roles is not merely a matter of educational philosophy, it is a concrete strategy for improving institutional metrics, research volume and quality. International collaboration and industry engagement carry significant weight in virtually every major ranking. In other words, how professors spend their time is directly connected to how far a university can raise its global standing. When professors devote most of their time to high-value research, international networking, and partnerships with industry, the number of publications, citations, highly cited papers, and international co-authored works naturally increases. If world best practice lectures are provided in multiple languages and used as a bridge connecting global learners and researchers, indicators such as the proportion of international students, international research collaboration, and joint degree programs with overseas institutions will rise in tandem. When universities co-design AI-based customized education and reskilling/upskilling programs with industry, their income from industry partnerships and records of technology transfer grow as well. Even if the number of professors remains constant, a strategic reallocation of faculty time and roles produces far more efficient and persuasive outcomes when translated into the language of global rankings. Experienced academics who have spent their lives in universities can intuitively grasp the structural impact of such a shift. From professor as object to architect of relational networks in the age of AI and relational philosophy. In the vocabulary of relational philosophy, the core asset of a university is not the professor as an isolated object, but the quality of the relational network connecting professors, students, AI, industry, and the wider world. The value that a single professor brings to an institution is completely different when they are confined to a lecture room versus when they are densely connected to domestic and international research networks, practitioners, alumni, startups, and local communities. AI serves as a tool to expand and accelerate this network. Artificial intelligence can automatically translate lectures, link the latest global research in real time, and analyze student learning data to inform professors about which student needs what kind of feedback. Professors, in turn, can use this signal to provide more humane judgment, care, and insight. It is not technology that determines direction. Rather, it is the relational design exercised by professors that defines how technology should be used. Ultimately, professors become the final gatekeepers of relationships, those who compensate for the limits of AI and endow it with ethics, responsibility, and a sense of the public good. AI does not replace the role of professors. It pushes their role upward into more advanced and strategic domains. The more ubiquitous AI becomes, the more clearly the professionalism of professors, grounded in relational philosophy, will stand out. Shifting professorial duties toward research-centered work is the true global standard. The question universities must now ask is clear. It is not how many professors should we hire, but where and how should we deploy our professors. The era in which tens of thousands of professors independently deliver the same content is coming to an end. Mechanical lecturing should be handed over to global content built on world best practices and delivered by avatars. Professors should instead position themselves as relational designers who connect students with knowledge, technology with society, and universities with the world. We must move beyond the era of evaluation based on a simple student-faculty ratio. New indicators should track the combined human plus AI support each student actually receives, their learning outcomes, the quality of their post-graduation lives, and their lifelong learning pathways. When universities themselves design such metrics and present them to the international community, they cease to be mere objects of evaluation and begin to emerge as agents that set the standards. To lead global standards and world best practices in the age of AI, universities must pursue reforms that elevate, not reduce, the role of professors. They must reduce lectures as isolated objects and instead enhance the quality of relationships. They must transform themselves from institutions that passively follow outdated indicators into pioneering universities that propose new ones. Only then can they protect the dignity and professionalism of professors while simultaneously strengthening their competitive position among the world's leading universities, a path on which even those who have devoted their entire lives to academia can nod in firm agreement. Thank you for your attention to this long-form commentary by Professor Nam Yong Lee.